But when enough people make false promises, words stop meaning anything. Then there are no more answers, only better and better lies. And lies won't help us in this fight.
Truth versus lies. It's a key concept in this story. Game of Thrones Season 7 revealed that
Robert's rebellion was built on a lie.
Some fans argue that Robert's rebellion was not built on a lie, but technically, any false statement is a lie, even if the person saying the lie does not realize that it's a lie. So Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. That's one example why history and lore is wrong, because of a misunderstanding. A second reason that history and lore is wrong is due to the game of telephone. Over time, words get lost in translation.
And the Septons who did it weren't much for accuracy. I mean, they have knights bumbling around thousands of years before there were knights. Sorry, bad habit.
The tale of Bale the Bard may be an example of this. Many fans believe that the tale of Bale the Bard had to have happened within the last 200 years because the tale references the King's Road, and the King's Road was not constructed until the reign of Jaehaerys the Conciliator, the man known to be the greatest of the Targaryen kings.
If he gets what he wants, I expect he'll be a better ruler than the fools sitting on the Iron Throne the last 100 years.
But stories change over time. The word King's Road may have been added to the tale of Bale the Bard after the King's Road was built, simply to make it easier to explain the story to a child who is familiar with the King's Road. But the story itself might be much older than the King's Road. Stories change over time. Here's another example that we should question. It's part of the Azor Ahai prophecy. There's a chance that these two words here, son and tale, they may have been lost in translation. Should the word son be S-O-N son, a human, a child? And should the word tale be T-A-L-E tale, a story, a song? In other words, is the Azor Ahai prophecy really about the Song of Ice and Fire, a love story, a tale where two people forged a bastard sword, a son? We'll get back to this. A third reason that history and lore is wrong is because history and lore is written, or rather, history is rewritten by the winners. This is a big one, and we have two primary candidates for this. The T-A-L-E tale of the Night's King and the tale of Bale the Bard. The Night King's name was wiped from the memory of man, his very name forbidden, and all records of the Night's King were destroyed. If true, these are blatant signs of a cover-up. Winners rewriting history, which means everything about that tale should be questioned, primarily the parts about him sacrificing to the others and his lover, the Night's Queen, being a White Walker. A second story which winners may have rewritten is the tale of Bale the Bard. Ygritte tells of a love story, whereas one of Jon Snow's brother crows, a man nicknamed Stone Snake, he knows Bale is a murderer, robber, and raper. Sounds familiar, right? Two stories, one of love, one of kidnapping, just like Robert's Rebellion. What's even more interesting, though, is that Jon Snow had never heard of this story, because the Winterfell Chronicles do not include the Bale the Bard story at all. Why not? Maybe Bale never existed. Maybe it's just a story. Or maybe, as Maester Yandel suggests in The World of Ice and Fire, the Starks did not include the tale of Bale the Bard because that tale brings humiliation to House Stark, since that tale implies that every Stark from that point on is a descendant of a wildling, Bale the Bard. If that tale is true, it would be exactly the type of history that House Stark would want the world to forget, which would explain why they didn't include it in the Winterfell Chronicles. So we have two stories that seem to be cover-ups, the Night's King and Bale the Bard. But let's take a step back to highlight why this is important. We have two people attempting to uncover the truth, Sam and Bran. In the books, the last thing that Jon asked Sam before Sam rode south was, did you find out who the others are, where they come from, what they want? Similarly, Jojen explicitly told Bran that his purpose is to find out truths forgotten now in Winterfell. And now, these two gentlemen are together, seeking out the truth. Season 7 revealed a major lie about the recent past, Robert's Rebellion. But that's not a truth that Winterfell forgot. That was just a misunderstanding, something that Winterfell never knew. So we should expect to find out a major lie from the far past, a lie about the others, a truth that Winterfell once knew, but now forgets. And odds are, it relates to one of these two stories, one of the two stories where history appears to have been rewritten by the Starks. Let's take it a step further though. What if these two stories are related? There are reasons to believe so. First, there's the Azor Ahai connection. Azor Ahai came thousands of years ago, and followers of her lore prophesy his return. Most likely, Rhaegar is Azor Ahai reborn, making Jon Snow the new Lightbringer. Because of the parallels, this implies that Bael's bastard son was the first Lightbringer, and it makes sense since the son slew Bael, ending that possible disaster. When the son returned home with Bael's head upon his spear, his mother, the Stark girl who had loved Bael, she threw herself from a tower in her grief, probably the same tower that Bran fell from. So she had a sad monkey's tail, T-A-L-E tail. She climbed and she fell, Nisa Nisa. And then the S-O-N son hid his face from the earth for a lifetime, possibly by abdicating his seat as Lord of Winterfell or even King of the North and taking the Black. In other words, Bael's son, the bastard of Winterfell, Lightbringer, he may have become the 13th Lord Commander. We can strengthen this hypothesis by going back to an even older hypothesis, that the Night's King's name was Jon Snow. Why? It starts with the infamous flinch. When Ygritte asked Jon his name, he said Jon Snow, and she flinched, responding, "An evil name." Pretty intense response, and then we've got this. The Night's King's name was, quote, wiped from the memory of man and forbidden. And Jon Snow once thinks that his name will be shadowed forever. Shadowed forever feels like a nod to the Night's King's name being wiped from the memory of man. Plus, their stories at the Wall are similar. They both became Lord Commander, they both fell in love with a so-called other, and they both got betrayed by their fellow crows. So basically, we've got two stories that...
Smells like pig shit.
I was going to say that we have two stories that smell like cover-ups. One of them parallels Jon Snow's birth, and the other one parallels Jon Snow's time at the Wall. All this suggests that these two people, they're the same guy. Now let's get back to the root of the problem. Why were these two stories rewritten? We can hypothesize that both of these stories were rewritten to cover up the exact same thing, to prevent the world from remembering the truth, that the Starks of Winterfell are descendants of
not only a bastard, but a traitor's bastard.
Namely, Bael the Bard's son, a wildling bastard. So, we should question the details of these two stories. Was the Night's Queen actually a White Walker? Or was she Dany Flynn, the only girl who we know to have gone to the Wall? A girl with a very peculiar name. A girl whose bloodline seems to have blue eyes, which would make a lie about her being a blue-eyed White Walker all the easier to propagate over time. Was she really a quote-unquote corpse queen? Or was she just the daughter of the Barrow King, who was then a power in his own right and oft associated with graves? Did the Night's King actually sacrifice to the others, a claim which, it's worth noting, only began after the Night's King was brought down? Pretty suspicious. And the Long Night. Were the White Walkers even part of this so-called Long Night when the S-U-N sun hid its face for a lifetime? Archmaester Fomas doubted that this battle even involved White Walkers. In his opinion, the so-called enemy during the Long Night, they became monstrous in the tales told thereafter because the Night's Watch and the Starks wanted to give themselves a more heroic identity as saviors of mankind, and not merely the beneficiaries of a struggle over dominion. A Dance of the Dragons battle amongst the Starks, a Dance of the Wolves, a battle of hellhounds. This aligns perfectly with the publicly released blurb about the Game of Thrones prequel, quote, "Only one thing is for sure, from the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, the mysteries of the East to the Starks of legend, it's not the story we think we know."
I have the blood of the first men. My ancestors lived here, same as yours.
As we went over in the Old Nan video, there's evidence that the Night's King becomes the Night King. And the story about the last hero? It's another lie, part of the same cover-up. At the end of the day, the Night King and Jon Snow are the two bastards of Winterfell, two lords of Winterfell, two kings of the North, and two Lord Commanders of the Night's Watch. Two men who were betrayed by their fellow crows, two songs of ice and fire. Two Lightbringers, two men named Jon Snow. They are family, so they should both ask one another.
So why are you fighting us?